Week 5 is in the books, and that means it's time to hit those waiver wires to find any players that could add value to the back end of your rosters. Quick note though, I will be referencing rostership percentages in this video, and those are coming from roster data from 1,700 Dynasty leagues on myfantasyleague.com. Basically a 50-50 split of one quarterback in Superflex, all with a minimum of 20-man rosters. So I'm not pulling these players out of nowhere. However, it is possible that some or even all of these guys are already rostered in your leagues, perhaps even by you, but for the most part, there are hundreds of leagues out there right now where these guys are on waivers. First and foremost, I want to highlight just a couple players that are highly rostered, but not exactly 100% rostered that I think should be. And those are Sam Howell in Superflex leagues, Dontrell Hilliard, Khalil Shakir, Alec Pierce, and Daniel Bellinger. Again, all guys rostered in over 90% of Dynasty leagues, but not 100%. So double check your waivers and immediately add these guys if they are available in your leagues. So first up, I want to re-emphasize a couple of running backs that are still rostered in under 90% of Dynasty leagues after a productive week this week. And that's Mike Boone from the Denver Broncos and Deon Jackson from the Indianapolis Colts. Both of these players need to be on your Dynasty rosters in basically every Dynasty league out there. Of the two, Boone is my preferred pick over the rest of the season because he's only competing with Melvin Gordon since Javonte Williams is done for the season. And no, I'm not scared of Latavius Murray. Stop that. However, Jackson may be the better pickup in the short term as he is more widely available still, and both Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines could potentially miss next week's game in week 6, making Jackson a near must start against the Jaguars. However, we know that both Taylor and Hines should return relatively soon, even potentially next week, making Jackson a tougher sell over the entire season, but one more spot start should be well worth the price to add him right now. One more reiteration from last week, y'all need to pick up Damian Williams right now. Last week, everybody was running to their waiver wires to pick up Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley after the news of Cordarrelle Patterson going on IR because for some reason, everybody wanted to pick them both up so that they could play them against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That really worked out. But while everybody was adding those two backs, the real add was and still is Damian Williams, who's eligible to return off IR starting this week. Williams is going to be the starting running back for the Falcons when he comes back, as he was the RB2 with Cordarrelle Patterson to start the season, and neither Algier nor Huntley did enough at all to change that fact. But it might be a tough sell to advise starting Williams this week against the San Francisco 49ers in his first week back, and again, even potentially next week against the Cincinnati Bengals. However, he will get his shot against the Carolina Panthers in week 8 without Cordarrelle Patterson, and those Panthers just got obliterated by Jeff Wilson and Tevin Coleman and have been crushed by running backs all year, and that's the game that I want Damian Williams for. So add him, stash him now before he actually starts playing snaps again and his waiver wire price potentially increases. Let's move over to the quarterback position real quick and address some ads in Superflex in both Bailey Zappe and Skylar Thompson. Of the two, I would much rather prefer to have Bailey Zappe as he was the better prospect. He's looked better overall in his NFL playing time, and I believe could actually have more time as a starter than Thompson moving forward. He only has to worry about Mac Jones after Brian Hoyer was placed on IR, and Jones was reported to have suffered a severe high ankle sprain that was originally thought to need surgery. However, a second opinion changed that diagnosis, but still, it's a high ankle sprain, and it's no joke, especially for a young franchise quarterback. And it's quite possible that the Patriots take their time with Mac Jones and play Bailey Zappe, maybe even up until their bye week in week 9, as they play the Browns, Bears, and Jets as their next 3 opponents, all of whom Bailey Zappe can compete with. Skylar Thompson, on the other hand, looked actually all right enough to start if you really needed to start a guy in a pinch. He has the weapons to throw to for sure, and my entire argument for Tua that all he needs to do is just throw a slant route to Tyreek or Jalen Waddle, and they take it to the house, and that's fantasy points for the quarterback. That still applies here. Plus, I really trust Mike McDaniel as an offensive mind and a guy who can optimize a system enough for his quarterback if given time to prepare. The Dolphins get Minnesota and Pittsburgh over the next 2 weeks, which neither defense is really terrifying for an opposing quarterback. So Thompson could be a fine low-end QB2 for as long as he's playing. I also want to remind you guys that we're also about to hit a massive bye week stretch for a lot of elite quarterbacks, starting in week 6 with Derek Carr and Jared Goff, and then in week 7, it's Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, and Jalen Hurts. So it's possible that you might need a quarterback as a spot start for one of those 2 bye weeks, and either Bailey Zappe or Skylar Thompson could potentially be your guy if you don't really have a great QB3 or your QB1 got injured and isn't playing, like Dak Prescott, Trey Lance. Maybe you were counting on Baker Mayfield. Guys like that where Zappe and Thompson could step in and just give you 15 fantasy points on a random week. Lastly, I want to touch on the guy that I believe to be the most underappreciated handcuff in all of Dynasty right now, as that torch was actually belonging to Jamal Williams, but it then passed over to Matt Breida. And we had the scare this week. We had the injury scare that Barkley missed a bit of time against the Green Bay Packers with a shoulder injury before coming back in and sealing the win for the Giants. But the scare was there. We saw it, and it kind of crept in a little bit. And while Barkley was out, it was Matt Breida who took the majority of the snaps and touches out of the backfield, finishing with 27 yards on 6 touches. I get that that's not an impressive stat line, but the point here is the usage with Barkley on the sideline. Now, should Saquon Barkley miss any time at all, Breida would be the guy to get the nod and could be a flex consideration in your starting lineup. Is he good? I mean, not particularly, but does it matter? Not at all, as long as he gets that usage. I mean, if Kalen Ballage can have 3 top 16 weeks in place of Austin Eckler, then Matt Breida can do it too in place of Saquon Barkley. And the fact that he's only rostered in 72% of Dynasty leagues and is more available than guys like Latavius Murray, Kenyon Drake, Caleb Huntley, Chris Evans, Trey Sermon, Treston Ebner, Jordan Mason, Myles Gaskin, and Ronald Jones is actually super insulting for Matt Breida right now. This is the RB2 behind the current fantasy RB1 right now, who has battled injuries for the last 2 years, and no one seems to care. Fix it. And if you're looking for some more moves to make after week 5 in either Dynasty or Redraft, I highly recommend checking out Justin's video right up here.